Welcome back, dear traders. The main highlight of the week, the Jackson Hole Symposium, will take place today. Investors are refraining from active trading. Assets are hesitant to pick up a trajectory, so volatility is rather high. Today, traders will finally learn about the Fed's future plans for monetary policy. However, there are plenty of other things to discuss. For instance, the trading results of a Thursday. Let's start. The US stock indexes managed to add gains, logging the best two-week performance. The Dow rose by 0.98%, while the NASDAQ grew by 1.67% and the S&P 500 lifted up by 1.41%. In today's pre-market, trading was rather choppy. Futures for the main benchmark indexes have been gradually declining throughout the day. Yet they broke out of the negative zone before the session opened. They retreated again ahead of a Powell speech, so the price swings ranged from 0.27 to plus 0.43%. The market sentiment today is very shaky. The S&P 500 is likely to move today in the corridor of 4,120 and 4,280 amid market uncertainty. Yesterday, stock climbed largely because of a short-lived optimism before the symposium and China's upbeat data. China decided to step up huge stimulus measures to boost the economy. Investors also digested the US economic reports. Weekly jobless claims decreased, and the revised second quarter GDP figure revealed that the economy contracted by 0.6% versus a 0.9% drop in the preliminary reading. The stock indexes have been growing for the second session in a row. The shares of the companies in all 11 sectors included in the S&P 500 jumped. The index recovered by 12% since the start of the year, and today futures for the US stock indexes have been falling throughout the day. Closer to the session opening, they edged higher. Pre-market trading was rather volatile as the traders were anxious ahead of Powell's testimony. They are sure to scrutinize his speech for hints about a slowdown in economic expansion. Even so, it could force the Fed to change its stance on monetary policy. Investors are also curious to find out the odds of a soft landing. Fed policymakers did not provide any comments yesterday regarding the size of the key rate hike. They only mentioned that the regulator would stick to aggressive tightening until inflation reaches the 2% target. As for individual stocks, Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, Amazon and Meta shares traded mixed in the range of minus 0.34 or plus 0.62%. Alibaba shares listed in the United States jumped by 7.97% after the Wall Street Journal reported that China could give the US full access to audit work papers. Dell Technologies stock fell by 4.9% after it joined rivals in predicting a dismal economic outlook. Gap shares rose by 6.5% amid better than expected quarterly profit and an increase in the sales in July and August. Shares of medical companies are facing bearish pressure today as Moderna is suing Pfizer and its German partner BioNTech for patent infringement in the development of the first COVID-19 vaccine. The company claims that they copied its groundbreaking technology. Pfizer shares declined by 1.4% before the close. Before the opening, the US dollar tumbled significantly, losing 0.69%, and it was trading at a high of 107.70. It may accrue bigger losses or quickly recover depending on the tone of a Powell speech. It's likely to move today in the range of 107.20 and 108.80. Ahead of the Jackson Hole Symposium, there is a 60% probability that the Federal Reserve will announce at least one more 75 basis point rate hike in September, and analysts note that these are investors who bet on the 75 basis point increase. Meanwhile, economists expect a 50 basis point move. Still, Mr. Powell's message may throw no light on the regulator's monetary stance. Instead, the chairman may choose to wait for the data on employment and inflation. In July, personal spending in the United States rose by 0.1% month-on-month after a 1% surge in June and below forecast of a 0.4%. It's the weakest reading so far this year, with an increase in consumption for services, namely housing and international travel, but a decline in consumption for gasoline and energy goods. Consumer spending was steady despite a sharp rise in inflation and interest rates, although it may soon start to slow down. Personal income in the United States grew by 0.2%, down from a 0.7% in June and well below market expectations of a 0.6%. It was the sixth consecutive increase, reflecting a rise in compensation that was partly offset by a decrease in proprietors' income. The drop in proprietors' income came mainly due to non-farm income. Today, USD CAD is seen hovering around 1.2920 in the range between 1.2890 and 1.30. Since Canada's macroeconomic calendar is empty, the Jackson Hole Symposium will be the main driving force for the pair today, with the additional support coming from crude oil quotes. Crude oil is bearish today. Brent futures fell by 0.41% to $98.81 a barrel. At the same time, the crypto market moves sideways today, with the assets trading mixed ahead of the Fed chairman's speech. Ether posted the biggest losses today after developers reported software bugs on a Thursday ahead of the Ethereum merge to proof of stake. Consequently, Ether nosedived by about 2%, sinking even deeper than the flagship cryptocurrency. Meanwhile, Bitcoin trades mixed today. The digital asset is now seen at around $21,700, depending on what stance the Federal Reserve takes post Jackson Hole. Bitcoin may either retest the high of 22,200 or drop below 21,000. This has been our final review of US trade this trading week. Once again, statements made at the Jackson Hole conference will be the main driving force for assets today, so market volatility is likely to increase. Trade carefully and, of course, profitably. Have a nice weekend and see you in our next news video.